Alright, I'm back here with part 2 of my update to my monthly opinions of late October, early November. Now, like I said, just think about the possibilities of what could happen if what I'm saying is correct. I mean, think about it. Why would Ian ask the question, what sinister scheme is planned now? Being planned now? And he says it, and he's asking that question right near a panel where King Max is asking to see Jeffrey St. John. Think about it. Think about everything I mentioned in part 1. I mean, it would really make things interesting if Ian wrote it in that way, to where Max could not only use the emeralds from the special zone to heal himself, but to regain power. And by doing so, he could actually disband, once again as king, he could disband the council. He would have the right to do that. And again, it would make things real interesting, really conflicting, if you will. It would make things really conflicting because you would have to deal with a war. You'd have the characters dealing with a war within and a war against the Eggman Empire. In other words, 2 wars. And think about it. And think about it this way. Ian is saying that this 2-parter in Service of the King is going to start the lead-in for the journey to 225. I mean, everything that I mentioned, some of the elements that I mentioned in part 1, will we see Bunnie's uncle again? Will we see her uncle again? Well, there's no doubt we will. There's no doubt that we will. And the question is also, will Snively find a way to get the Iron Queen out? There's no doubt that he's going to. Because if Ian says the beginning at the end of the side story, then there's no doubt Snively's going to try to find a way to get the Iron Queen out. And like I said, the reason Eggman wants to prevent this is because despite the fact that she was originally a sub-boss, Eggman knows she is more powerful than he is, and that she is the key to Snively overthrowing Eggman once again. But, I mean, like I said, all these interesting elements, all these questions that were asked at the end of 218 really, and a lot of these little hints and everything and preludes and prologues into upcoming issues really get you thinking. Because like I said, the In Service of the King storyline could bring a lot of intrigue to the comic book if Ian writes it to the point that Max is able to retake his position as king from his son, and thus cancel out the council's power, and thus bring that power back to the royal family. I mean, think how intriguing and interesting things could get. Think about it. I mean, if you think, think about it this way. You think this series here has some complicated storylines in the 2nd season? If Ian does what I think he's going to do, and I could be wrong, with this story, and in some way writes it to the point that the king could have some power, or at least there could be the start of a war within, and thus have the characters fighting 2 wars, then there's no doubt in my mind that what you've seen here, I hate to say this about Sad AM, but the episodes of the 2nd season would be on the same level, could end up being on the same level as the upcoming stories that you would see in the issues leading up to 225. That's how intriguing it could get if Ian finds a way to at least bring something out that would really get out of this 2-parter that would get people talking. Because think about it. Think about it. The issue is coming out this month. The 2-parter ends next month, if you will. And think about it. Think about the interesting prospects of it. Again, the stories that could come out of just that 2-parter depending on if it's what I said it is in part 1 of this two-part thing here, this two-part video, I mean, just think about the possibilities. I mean, wouldn't you agree it would be interesting? Wouldn't you agree that maybe some of the stories that could come out of it could be on the same level as some of the second season stories that you've seen here? Don't you think that? I do. I definitely see it. I mean, I'd be intrigued. But the question is, will Ian pull the trigger? Will that happen in some way? And the question again people have is, you know, will we see Bunnie's uncle again? Well, of course we're going to see her uncle again. Like I said, you can't introduce a new character, especially if it's the Grand Master of the Dark Egg Legion, into the continuity without a chance of seeing them again, especially if that character has a close personal relationship with one of the freedom fighters, because that is going to build a lot of conflict. It's going to build a lot of conflict. Because remember what her uncle said. Bunnie's uncle said, hey, look, you can't keep playing both sides forever, and one day you're going to have to face this as a freedom fighter. And that's going to build a lot of conflict, not just for her, but for him. Because think about it. You could have, think about it. In the near future, you can have this multi-part story. Where there's going to be one final battle, and on one side you can have Bunnie with the freedom fighters and their allies, and on the other side you can have her uncle, the Dark Egg Legion, and their allies, and the Eggman Empire, fighting each other. And one of the fights could come down to her and her uncle. And do you think she's going to want to fight him? No. And do you think he's going to want to fight her? No. And like I said, that's going to build a lot of conflict leading into 225, maybe even beyond. Because they're already looking at 25 issues more after that. But the question is, when will we see him again? I've got a feeling we're going to see him before 225. And if not, we may see him afterwards. We may see him afterwards leading to 250. Now, here's an awesome question. If 225 is going to be a big issue, and this two-parter in Service of the King is going to be the jump start to it, then what do you think 250 is going to be like if the jump start to 225 is in a few weeks with issue 219? What do you think the jump start is going to be with that? What do you think 250 could be? Huh? I mean, think about it. I mean, yes, I know that 250 is going to be a long ways off. It's basically going to be 2 years from 225 upcoming. Because if you think about it, 219 is this November, I believe. 220 is December. 221 is January. 222 is February. 223 is March. 224 is April. And 225 is May. So think about it. Two years from now will be 249, issue 249, and that would be 2012 or 2013. Think about it. By June, think about it. They would have enough time from now, and as well as April and May of next year, to build on whatever's going to be hugely anticipated for 250, because that's going to come out in June 2013. Think about it. They've got basically 2 years to work on whatever 250 is going to be like, and knowing Ian, he's already got 250 already planned up and ready to go. Because like I said, if he's saying that the two-parter in Service of the King is going to be the lead-in to 225, it's going to be the jump start, if you will, to a journey leading into 225, then how big do you think 250 could be after that? Because like I said, whatever comes out of this two-parter is going to really build a lot of conflict and everything within the Acorn family. We all see that coming. Whether King Max finds a way to get some power back or not, whether we end up getting a war within as well as a war against the Eggman Empire, it's going to be something big. It's going to be something big, and it's going to be something that we're going to be talking about. Yeah, it's not an anniversary issue, if you will, but 220 is still a milestone. It's still a milestone, so in a way, it could be something big. How big is it? I guess we can only find out next month. Not this month, but next month. So, again, I don't know what it could be, but I've got a feeling Ian's got something big planned. I mean, heck, the new editor on the Sonic comic book has said that 225 is going to be big. So how big could it be if Ian is already saying, hey, 219 and 220 are two-parter in Service of the King that's going to close out this year, going to close out 2010, is going to be our jumpstart into 225. It's going to be basically the start of our journey into 225. How big is it going to be if we're starting that journey now with the final 2 issues of 2010? How big could it be? That's the question. But obviously we're going to have to sit back and find out. And that's all I'm going to say for my updated monthly opinions for November 2010, the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book. If you got any comments, let me know. I'll try to see if I can answer them, but like I said, I just feel that everything that was hinted at in 218, the questions that were asked from what sinister scheme is being planned next to the beginning at the end, which was written at the end of the side story in 218, I've got a feeling something big's going to happen in 225 that we're going to be talking about for quite a while. And whoever is the traitor, whoever's going to be revealed as the traitor in 220, apparently we know it's not Sally, we know it's not Bunnie, we know it's not Tails. It's either St. John, Hamlin, or even the King Max himself. But something is going to happen in 220 that's going to make people talk for a while leading up to 225. That is why Ian has said it's a jump start into that journey towards 225, because apparently something big is going to happen, not just betrayal wise, but within the kingdom itself, within the royal family itself possibly, that is going to make the comic book more interesting and more intriguing than it's ever been before. And like I said, it may give us issues with stories that will be on the same level as the episodes that you saw in the 2nd season of Sonic the Hedgehog Sat AM. So that's all I'm going to say. Tell me what you think in comments below, and I will talk to you all later. Have a good day. God bless. Take care. Peace out. And that's all for now, folks.